Um, so Pam, if you don't, do you mind if I ask where you're at and what kind of investing you're doing so far?
Um, well, my parents have always had rental property since I was right after I got out of high school. They in the late '80s, it was a bad time for everybody. My dad didn't work, so they um, happened to meet somebody and he started building his own rental properties. Um, and so I've always been interested in it. I tried it when I was young with a trailer, and it just didn't work out. And in 2020, I had bought a piece of property in with my parents. I bought the back lot; they bought the front lot, and I had it since I was 20,
Mhm.
in my early 20s. Um, so it it gained in a lot of value. Um, and where I live in Texas, in Silsbee, I saw there was a strip of land in almost in town. And I thought, oh my God, I always thought that would be a good place to put rental houses. Well, I saw the for sale sign. I sold my property in Louisiana with my parents, and um, I bought the lot, and I built two houses. And then a year later, I built two more. So I have four right now. And just trying to keep them rented and collect enough rent to pay the taxes and insurance and mortgage is challenging. I've got a couple other lots that I've got six lots on that one street, and my goal was to have all six houses in 5 years. But if I build them next year, is my plan. Two more, then I'll have my six in 5 years. So,
So
and
you
then
have four right now, and your
yeah,
goal is to have the six?
six. I have another piece of property. Um, I'm just letting it sit, but I don't have any plans for that. I want to build on it, but it won't be anytime soon. And I did. My husband and I just bought a um, a house in a subdivision, and we're refurbing it. It's currently being gutted. Um, that's that's pretty challenging. That's a different thing. But my goal is the house we live in now, to sell it, build the other two houses, and then I'll have kind of not a free house, but it'll be a paid for house, and then ramp up the notes on the other ones. But I want to find different financing because I have the 5 year balloon notes with the bank, and kind of limiting because the notes are high, the interest rate's high. So that's why I'm here. I'm looking for the right questions about the refurb and financing, basically.
Mhm. So you have that type of loan on, is it like a portfolio loan? You have a loan on each
I have
house
it on each house,
and they all have the balloon?
all four of them. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, all five of them do. Yeah. The construction loan though is 1 year, but the four have each, and the two of them come up next year.
And Pam, the property that you live in now, that you said you're going to sell, do you have the balloon on that as well?
No, we own that. We own that. We don't owe anything
Uh,
on that.
okay. Have you ever considered renting that or doing some sort of also like cash out refinance on that for the other properties? Because if you own that one outright, there's potentially an opportunity there, but maybe it's not a good rental property.
It's not. It's in
Okay.
Fred, Texas, and Fred is a half a horse. It's only got doesn't even have a stop sign. Um, so it
Okay. Yeah.
wouldn't be a good rental property.
Yeah. Okay. I
There's
gotcha.
nothing within 30 miles.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was just trying to think of ways that you could, from that perspective, you know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
it'd be able to rejuggle things to make it where you don't have that a balloon coming due in obviously 5 years, but then
Yeah.
have a good interest rate and some sort of cash flow and be able to use that and then also on the interest line and depreciation, have it help with your taxes. But doesn't sound like that's feasible. So
No, it wouldn't be. I don't think we'd be able to rent that for
yeah.
too way out there. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be able to come around to some information that might be able to help you too. There's a lot of people in the group that use different lenders. You know, we're working with one right now in the St. Louis area, and they're licensed in just about every state, but we can get you that information.
Okay, that'd be great.
Yeah, his name's well, I'll put it in the chat, but his name's Brian Bilstein, and he's with Neighborhood Loans. We've also worked with Aaron Chapman out in Arizona with Security National Mortgage. Dana might have some lenders that she worked with as well, or other people in the group that will come up with some suggestions. So we will come around to that, and
house hacks in 13.
I don't know who that is.
I'll never forget.
I'm not sure who's. Okay, so maybe we can get ready for you to go, Dana. Again, thank you so much for your time this evening. Most people probably know who you are, but guys, this is Dana Dunford. She's the CEO of Hemlane, which is a property management company, and I'll let her talk about her company and what they do. And then afterwards, we have questions. Great.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Dana. So I live in San Francisco, California, and started investing first in Denver, Colorado. So that was back in 2009, or was it 2010? Kind of hit the market at the right time. Basically saw that, hey, purchasing the property was the easy part. That was back then, not anymore. So would love to go through that all with you guys with finding good deals is not as easy as it used to be. So I have quite some experience with that. Actually sold the portfolio in Denver, and now I'm in Florida, in the Florida market as well. And so kind of interested if others are invested there. And then my day job is helping manage. We manage about 28,000 rentals nationwide. And really our model is, hey, you can be anywhere in the world. And from your phone or from your computer, you can manage your property. You have full transparency, but we help get the boots on the ground. So I manage my own portfolio that way as well. I've been doing property management since 2015. And so if you have any questions on the property management side, I've hopefully seen it all. So happy to answer any questions you have, which is why I'm here. And then I'm not a lawyer, so I can't provide legal advice, but definitely can provide you any of those resources. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, awesome. I was going to ask if anybody here is in Florida. I know some of the people that I know that are in Florida aren't here yet, but we do have a couple or three Florida investors.
Okay, great.
And I was also thinking today that for ourselves, my wife and I personally, one of the challenges that we're coming up with, we have properties in, like I said, St. Louis, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and property managers for all of them. But specifically in St. Louis, we just purchased two. They're single families, 3-bedroom and a 2-bedroom. And we have another one where our Section 8 tenant is moving out this month. And I'm trying to figure out a way to stay involved in the process of setting the rent. When I reached out to our property manager to ask for comps, he came back with a really low number. For example, right now we have a 2-1 that's rented for $1,150 through Section 8, and he came back with $950. And I was surprised by that. I also reached out to the agent that's been helping us buy in that market, and she thought it was really low. And she had looked up some comps in the same areas, and the rents were more in line with what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to stay involved in that process without being a pain in their side, I guess, is what I wonder.
Yeah, you shouldn't be a pain in their side. So kind of two things with that. The first thing I would say is I'd understand that property manager, how many other rentals they have in that neighborhood, because maybe they are an industry expert and maybe rates have fallen drastically. Right. So like understanding a little bit more about the property manager and their level of expertise. The other thing I always say is like I always use data and no emotion with it. So take your property. The easiest thing to do is go on Zillow. There's other websites you can do it, but Zillow has majority of listings. Like we list all of our listings to 15 websites, including Zillow, but they typically have most of the listings. And I just search my property. I say rental rate, and then what's there for rent. Oh, by the way, we have a free rent estimate on Hemlane too, so you can download that too. It's everything for the past 6 months, what comparable properties you have. But I would like take the tenant approach where you just go on there, put your property in like 2 bedroom, 1 bath, or whatever it is, and then narrow in on your neighborhood. And if you have zoning laws, it might get slightly trickier. Like I know in Houston, it's slightly trickier because zoning, like one street's great and the next street's terrible, which could impact the pricing. But I don't think that's true in St. Louis. And so you would just do a comparison of everything else in that neighborhood and just click and pretend you're a tenant and be like, if I'm a tenant, are there other properties that look like mine that are going for $1,100 a month? And if the answer is yes, then objectively, and then you can click on the listing and it will tell you how many days it's been on market, how many applicants it's had, and how many inquiries it's had. And the really cool thing about that is basically very, very quickly, you can figure out, like if it's been on the market for 30 days and has 0 inquiries, then you're probably like, maybe it's not that great and it's priced too high. But typically you can do that and understand the demand for it. And so I think from that perspective, I would do that objectively. And then just tell your property manager, hey, I did my own research. I can see that others in the area, here's 3 listings that are going for $1,100 a month. And they're comparable to my own. And then go ahead and ship that off to the property manager and say, I'd like to list mine at 1,100, and you can prove me wrong that maybe we have to reduce the price, but I'd like to start at 1,100. 2 other things. One, I had a rental listing of my own today where the tenant had sent through like on Hemlane, like here are 2 comparable listings that are way lower than what your property is priced at. And mine's only been on market for 2 days and has a ton of inquiries, but the tenant tried to argue like, hey, can I have a lower price? And I asked, what's the source of these listings? And it was Facebook Marketplace. And I went onto Facebook Marketplace to look at those 2 listings, and they totally looked like a scam. Like the person had just joined Facebook Marketplace in 2024, it was like September. The 2 listings are actually listed on Zillow for sale. And there's like nothing. And so it was like, so you do also kind of need to understand the source and just like make sure it's good. Usually Facebook is pretty good at shutting down bad listings, but you also kind of want to look at that as well. For the most part, if you're on Zillow and hopefully Facebook Marketplace will shut down those 2, they usually don't have scams. I try not to use Craigslist as a source because there's just so many scams on there that it's like sometimes what you think is a comparable property is not. It's not really verified. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing I would say is if you take a Section 8 tenant, that rental is probably worth $100 to $200 more automatically per month. And the reason for that is Section 8, it's really hard for those tenants to find places. They also know it's fixed at 30% of their income, right? Or 33%, whatever it is. And so they have a smaller amount of listings that they potentially will qualify for based on the state and the income requirements for the property. And so I've found like if I have a duplex, the rate I can get if I list one with Section 8 is much higher, assuming that I'm taking a Section 8 tenant for it. So just something to keep in mind. And so, Frank, I think what probably your analysis is that may be different than your property manager is that you do have a Section 8 tenant in there. And if they were to go through the same process with Section 8, you could get that $1,100. And so that would be another variable in there. And I've done that experiment A/B tested it, and that's for sure true that if you accept Section 8, you'll get a lot more of the inquiries depending on where it is. So I know that was a super long answer, but hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Like I said, I wanna, and I told them I want to be involved in the process as well. But I think, just like you said, finding some comps that are strong enough to take them back to him and show him the research that we've been doing. And then, like you said, if it does seem like it's priced too high, at least we can test it, right? Because we don't know until we try it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like the data will tell you whether or not. So the first time you list your property, it's going to be at the top of every listing website saying hot new listing. If in the first 2 to 3 days you don't get any inquiries, great, you can reduce the price. I think where you get in a little bit of trouble is pricing it too low, getting a ton of applicants, and then taking one applicant because they're like, oh, I'll give you $200 more per month. And then there's some sort of fair housing violation, or someone says you chose that tenant because of X, Y, and Z, and it wasn't fair. And so I always say just list it higher. And then the first 2 to 3 days, see what you get in. If you don't get anything, then yeah, maybe you should reduce that price. And then I would, all the listing websites is Facebook Marketplace is the only one that's cut off. Actually, Craigslist as well from automatic syndication from softwares. So I would just make sure it's also listed on Facebook Marketplace, that the agent is doing that. It's really interesting. Some of my rentals, I'll post on Facebook Marketplace and I get actually a lot of demand from them because that particular market has a lot of tenants on, especially in that like 800 to $1,400 range, a lot of them looking. And then there's other markets, especially tier 1 and tier 2 cities. If you put it on Facebook Marketplace, you don't get as much as Zillow and, truly on HotPads and PadMapper and Zumper and Redfin and all of those. So I would I would also make sure that they're listing it everywhere. But like St. Louis is a really growing market. There's a guy, I think his company is Blackbird or something, Frank. I can introduce you to him. He's a real estate investor there. He's born and raised there and kind of knows all the rental markets and continues to invest in them. He might also be a good point of contact for you. He's a real estate investor. He doesn't do like property management or anything else, but with his own rentals, he might be a good sounding board for like, hey, this market and this type of property would go for this price. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Frank, I feel like I don't know what your relationship with your property manager is, but it doesn't have to be a negotiation of what you're going to set the rent at. I mean, you are the owner and you do set the rents. When I talk to my property manager, they give us recommendations for the rent, but I'm always doing my own research on what I think the rent should be, and I'm setting them. If I want to set for double market rate, I can do that. And they're not going to complain about it.
Yeah, thanks, Theo. That's really helpful. I think since we're fairly new at this is our second attempt, like I said, at real estate investing and picking up some rentals. This is the first time that we've come up to this point where we need to fill units. We bought 2 new ones, like I said, that we're doing a little bit of work on getting them ready to rent. And then that third one, all in the same, basically zip code, the Section 8 tenant we've had for the year since we bought it. Now she'll be moving out. So this is like the first time I'm diving into this, but thank you. And that's kind of the way I felt about it too. But like I was telling Dana, I don't want to, I guess, become a pain in their butt. But I do have a lot of respect for the property manager. He came highly recommended from one of our other guys, and he's been awesome with us since we've had him. But yeah, I think I always tell people myself, this is too important to not ask questions and not go for the best for yourselves and your family. So I need to take my own advice there, I think. Thank you. Did anybody else have any questions before I ask another? Hopefully
Hey,
you guys...
Frank, it's Troy.
Hey, Troy. Hi. Good to see you.
Hey, so one thing I've done in Kansas City is I've looked at the fair housing market value for rents,
Uh-huh.
and I'll give you pretty much everything from 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, it goes down the list and it shows you what the fair housing market values are. Also, I've contacted the housing authority
Mhm.
and gotten in touch with a representative there to ask them what their rates are for the rentals for their units for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, and such like that. That way, you understand what their payouts are, and then in Kansas City, they have their rates set for what they pay out for the units, but it also that includes expenses. So if your tenants are paying for expenses, you got a lot for what the expense is going to be on the unit. And so there are some concessions on what they'll say if their expenses gets greater than what the rent is, they can apply for assistance for overages, but generally you want to be underneath that. And if your rent is going to be higher than what the expenses will pay for, they'll let the housing authority will tell you that your rents are too high in order for a voucher candidate.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've heard that some of the Section 8, like the overall price that they'll pay, typically includes some of the utilities like water and gas and things like that, garbage. But so yeah, I appreciate that. And I do look at the FMR, and that's the one of the other resources that I'm going to go back to them with, because that seems pretty basic. I mean, they should have the FMR figures with them, right? So in that particular area, a 2-1 is 1209, and we were renting for 1150. The 3-1s, the FMR is 1565. So
It's pretty similar to Kansas City.
yeah, I think we were talking about that, right?
Mine might be slightly higher, but not by much.
Yeah, and we have another friend who's typically here, Travis. I think in his county, he was getting 1800 for a 3-bedroom. So
Yeah,
I know there's a little variation there, but I did, and I was surprised I got a hold of a live person at the housing authority. She was super helpful and started giving me some figures. So as far, maybe Dana, you might know this, there they have a county housing authority and a city housing authority. Is that right?
It depends on which county you're in, but some will have both. I don't know about St. Louis itself, but yeah, there and you should be working with the city one and just clarify what's going on with the county one. But to your point, every housing authority I've worked with has always been on time with rent. And the people are always available. You call them, you email them, they're pretty fast. I mean, sometimes they take like a day or two to post your listing if it's manual, but I found actually it to be a delightful government experience. Should I say the least. Yeah, I don't know if your experience was the same, but you saying they pick up their phone, that's been my experience too.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And just everybody in general, when I'm calling like to set up utilities and things like that, even after I tell them I'm from California, they're eager to help me. So I think that was a plus because everybody seems to hate California and doesn't want anything to do with it. But it's the total opposite for everything I've had experience with so far.
Yeah. There's a cool company, Frank, speaking of utilities, that I just spoke with their team. The guy's a serial entrepreneur. It's called utilityprofit.com. They will set up your tenants' utilities for them, like a concierge service, and pay you out for it, like to actually get everything set up and confirm it all is set up. So it would be something also to look at, like especially if you're investing in a new city, because I was just going to do that of like look it up. You just send it to the tenant of like, here's what you need to do to get your utilities set up, and then you don't hand over the keys until that's set up. So just a suggestion for folks to use.
Okay, and you said utilityprofit.com?
Yeah, let me get it to you. I just spoke with them. We haven't put it into Hemlane yet because pricing it's free. Let me just show you this. We haven't put into Hemlane because we always experience we try to beta test before we do with anything and have it like at least 100 properties that we ourselves have gone through it with before we recommend a service. But I just spoke with this company, and if you reach out to them and just ask them for a link, there's like this link so their tenants can, it says in what I just sent to you, it says send this link to any tenant so they can activate utilities. And what's cool about it is it will go through and make sure electricity, water, gas, trash, internet is set up. And you'll get like an alert before you hand over the keys to the tenant. So yeah, I just came across the company last week in Las Vegas at Blueprint. So we're going to do a pilot and like test it on some alpha users we have to make sure it works. But you mentioned utility, so I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it sounds really great. Like a one-stop shop.
Yeah, because I mean, the biggest thing as an owner is like you don't want a month to go in and be like, shoot, the tenant didn't set up utilities for 15 days and now I'm stuck paying 15 days of your utilities. So this is something I think from that perspective for you guys to look into and let me know what you think of it.
Great.
Who,
We'll
who's
give it a
making the
shot.
payment? Is the tenant making the payment?
Yeah, the tenant makes the payment to the utility company, but they have the nationwide network of every single one. And so anyways, it seems like a cool new offering.
But does the tenant get charged by utility profit? Like, are they paying an extra
No,
fee?
they get charged specifically not from utility profit. They get charged directly from the utility company themselves. So the water, the gas, the electric. And then what's really interesting is my understanding from talking to them is there's certain places like San Francisco where I am, where there's only one utility company, PG&E, right? Like you don't have any other option. But in some places like Texas, there's 3 or 4 and they're all competing. And so what happens is they get paid out from the utility partners from signing, but they work with all of them. So they ask the tenants, which one do you want to work with? But by them setting it up, they get paid out and that's how they make money. And so they said in some areas, we don't make any money. And then in other areas, we make money and it all pays our bills and all of that. So I thought that was kind of like a cool way to solve a problem that all of us have of like tenant, did you get your utilities set up? So we don't have an affiliation yet with them yet, but we'll like beta test that with some of our users who like to test things out. And then I can get back to you guys on how it works.
That'll be great. Thanks. Um, I was also wondering, I I mean, I see you with Zuber and Dion all the time, and we've learned a lot about what you do and your company, but there there are different tiers, right, for landlords to sign up with, and they the services increase with each tier. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you're like advertising we have a free package. So if you're advertising your rental, you're just looking to do your accounting, that's all free, a free package for you to go through and do that. We'll advertise it up to 15 listing websites. It depends on which package you have, but we'll go ahead and advertise it to them all. And it's interesting because, like, for example, if you use realtor.com or like syndicate to realtor.com, that's only like 3% of leads, or apartments.com is usually like 5% of leads. And so what we try to do is aggregate them all together. So with all of them with one click, you get advertising to all of them. And then some of our more like beloved packages, which is where we actually do the operations, is our essential and complete package. So those are the ones where we do 24/7 repair coordination. You can go ahead and get tenant communication. So we'll assist with all of the requests that come in from tenants and respond to them, make sure everything's in a prompt manner, et cetera. So kind of think of us as like your property management assistant. So you don't have to go ahead and get a virtual assistant, but one specialized in fair housing and property management. And then some of our other packages include leasing. So we can do, agents on the ground to find and place a tenant. We also have self-guided tours. Self-guided tours are also our fastest growing product. And so that's been a really interesting one and also a kind of a hot debate with squatters. So happy to answer any questions with that.
Yeah, that was my first thought, squatters.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to with self-guided tours, there's a couple of things you need to do. The first is you have to do identity verification for everyone who goes in. So I don't know if you've been through the Airbnb process, but if you're new, it will trigger you, especially like based on level of risk, it will trigger you to just take a picture on your phone of your face and your ID next to you, and they scan it. So if there's any red flags that we have, we will not be setting that tenant up for a self-guided tour. We'll just provide that back to the owner of like, hey, this is too risky. Otherwise, if there's no red flags on that, then we'll go through with the self-guided tour, and we've all already qualified them for income, and then their income to rent ratio, and that their credit meets your minimum. We haven't pulled their credit. We've just said, do you have a score over 600 or 620? Here's how you can just quickly check what your score is before we waste their time of going to a showing. And we found that to be better because then you do showing 7 days of the week versus our agents. And I love our agents. We have some great agents on Hemlane, but it's based on their schedule. So like if they can't show the property until this weekend, if the tenant sees a self-guided tour property today or tomorrow, they're much more likely to sign that lease than this weekend. And you might lose them if the agent can't go out until a Saturday open house. And so we try to get tenants in the day of and book it right away. So yeah.
That sounds pretty futuristic. Chester, you had a question?
Well, it was more of I'd say a nice to have feature. One of the things that I'm thinking about, sort of from the end-to-end life cycle, where Hemlane focuses mostly on um, operations once the property is in service. One of the things that I was thinking about was some sort of like connection or like an API between um, lead generating properties, like the examples being like Bright Investor, Prop Stream, places like that, where once you've gotten all the information, somehow it can feed into Hemlane to be able to say, okay, I'm gonna be going under contract on 123 Main Street, and the data that's in, I'll use Bright Investor as an example, the data that's pertinent to Hemlane would be able to port over somehow. I don't know if that's something that is possible, but that's just one of those things that I was thinking about. And I would imagine that most of the time, a lot of the landlords are like manually inputting all of the information in.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple of different ones. We've spoken about it at length of do we buy the data? So one would be on the listing, right? If all the property information and not just auto filling that out. And then the second is on the market, like the value of the property, because that will help with gross rent multiplier and capex. So that's definitely, it's not something we do today. PropStream we've looked at, Bright Investor, not as much. We've looked at I think like Property Radar, PropStream. We've looked at uh batch data leads. There's a Cruxy. There's been quite a few of them. And so there will be like it's only a matter of time, I think, before we do that. The other interesting thing, Chester, with it that almost reduces the cost of adding all that data is actually AI. So actually AI can aggregate from public records everything and then toss that stuff in there. So we do it on the listing description. The question is like, how far do we take that? And where do we go from there? And then some of this data is obviously because they've purchased it or they've used multiple data sources. And so the question is like, how good is that versus using AI for it? Rents and appreciation would be an example. Like rental rates from all of those systems kill me because none of them are accurate. And they're almost not as accurate as us going on and doing that process I just mentioned with Frank of going on, seeing what's in the market on your area. And so I think it's interesting because they have some data that AI would not have. And then AI could potentially get more data based on how you prompt it. And so it's interesting on how you balance those, but I hear you on that.
Okay, yeah, it was just more kind of a thought and just to
Yeah, I love
see,
it.
yeah. So, but I think Jason had also had a question. Jason, are you? Is Jason in? Or maybe I don't
He's
know.
there, but
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm here. Um, Hello, Dana. I'm a basic member. I have a fourplex
Cool.
that I use you guys for that I had a tenant move out, so I'm getting ready to lease. And I know you help with that. I just don't know how, if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, so the first thing is the basic where it's advertising to the 15 listing websites. You do your own showings, so you can add your showing calendar, and then there's the background and credit checks through there. There is the a full application, and then we just launched e-sign. We haven't announced it, but you can do e-signature in there, and then you can get access to lease agreements, although we will be having lease agreements in app by the end of October. So you actually may be using our new feature, Jason. I may have you on a beta for that.
Okay.
There's all of that for the basic package. If you want self-guided tours, that's $595 flat. We ship the lockbox out to you, and then we do all the pre-screening on the tenants. We respond to tenant inquiries automatically. Every tenant gets a call out. Then we qualify them, get them set up for the showings. The reason we do the call out to them is if you're doing a self-guided tour, tenants are just as skeptical about scams as landlords are. And so they want to talk to someone on the phone. And so we do calls out and say, we're totally here for you, but this is just convenient. You can get in today, you can get in tomorrow. Let's just get you in for a showing. We're trying to beat out any competition that you may have to get them in there fast enough. Then any feedback that comes back from the showing will be an email to you. So let's just say the tenant says the grass is overgrown or something like that. We would send that back to you. And then we'll do the showings, and then we'll go through the screening with the applicants. And then once we have an applicant that meets your criteria, we'll send it to you for approval. And then all of that follows fair housing. The third option is an agent-led tour. If it's a furnished rental, we highly don't recommend self-guided tours. And so there's certain types of properties, even if it's in like some sort of HOA that doesn't allow self-guided tours, things like that, we would recommend an agent. And then the agents will connect you with a couple of agents in the area. You can pick and choose which one you want to work with. The agents we work with are great, but they also charge a lot more, usually double to 3 times what a self-guided tour is. And so that would be kind of what you're balancing there based on the property.
Okay. They're Section 8 most likely, the people that'll be looking, so I'll probably go there and try and figure out how to do a tour myself. It'll be a good learning experience.
Yeah. And depending on where you are, if you do the tours, that's great. Depending on where you are, Section 8 is different. Have you had Section 8 tenants in there historically?
Yes.
Okay, great. So each Section 8, like each county, I don't know if you know this, but like certain ones will run a background check beforehand, even before they have the tenant qualify for Section 8. And so you can understand what their qualifications are and criteria. And depending on that, you're right. If it's in a popular area and it has Section 8, some Section 8, even in certain counties, will just do calls out to you. Like they'll just give them your phone number. They don't even give the Hemlane listing link. And then you would just get them all in a tour. You know, you can set up tours 2 to 3 times per week and just have them all show up for it. And then once they do the tour, they can do the application. There's background and credit check and go from there.
Okay. I'm in Chicago and I will look into that to see if they do that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Chicago, off the top of my head, I don't know. I wish I had that answer for you.
Oh, it's okay. I appreciate all the information.
I was going to go back to what you were talking about as far as maintenance calls. So wherever we are in the country, if we are a Hemlane customer, you have those contacts in basically every market. So is that
Depends on the market. Pam's example at the beginning where it's just a stop sign in the city, that would not work for our repair coordination. We can do the repair coordination, but you yourself would have to bring the contractors. So when you go through the Hemlane experience, it will tell you what package you qualify for. So it might gray out complete. And if it grays out the complete package, it means we don't have a network there yet. And we wouldn't feel comfortable with our own network. But 24/7 repair coordination, we can do nationwide. So that, like, if you bring your own contractors, we can definitely do it. We'll do the troubleshooting, dispatch of the service professionals, price negotiation, all of that. But you might have to bring your own service professionals based on where it is in the country. Kind of as a rule of thumb, if it's over 100,000 in population, like the MSA, we'll be able to service it. But yeah, it just depends on where it is.
Great. Anybody else have a question?
Well, I guess I do have a sort of, I guess, a little bit more generic question. So just recently closed on our first property. Um, and although like the way that everything already got set up is I'm been working with a turnkey provider, and the turnkey provider has a property manager network essentially. So I'm working with that property manager right now. Um, the question though is thinking about this long term onboarding and or offboarding, but more specifically onboarding. How easy would it be to request whatever data would be necessary to change over to be able to say, okay, I want to use Hemlane instead of the current PM who I have right now? Like what steps or process would that involve?
The first thing is checking your contract. Because the first thing would be most property managers have an annual contract followed by month to month. Some will have it where it's another additional year. And we deal with this quite a bit, where then there's a termination clause as well in there. And so there's certain cases where the property manager is completely negligent and we're like, just terminated and please don't pay that fee because they've broken certain things in the lease agreement where like this lease is or the property management agreement where this is no longer valid. If they haven't broken it, you just want to make sure it's usually a 30-day notice that you would provide them with the termination. And then I've always found if like in any sort of relationship termination, empathy is really important, especially because they probably still have 30 days with your tenants. And so just making sure that it's like, hey, I've decided to take a different path. It has nothing to do with you. Just it's, you know, whether it's more affordable, more transparent, like whatever you want to bring up. I'll be transitioning management starting, you know, November 1st. Thank you so much for everything. If you want to jump on a call, let me know. Usually they'll come and try to like keep your contract and try to save you from that perspective and just say, no, I rest assured you did a great job. If there's something that they can improve, I always say, tell them what they can improve. We say the same thing, like, please call me if you ever have a bad experience. Like we want to hear everything and make sure we're always getting better. And so if there is something they can improve, you can definitely let them know that. But I think just making sure you know when your contract expires with them and then there's that smooth transition is really helpful throughout the process. Yeah.
Okay. And then as far as like uh data or anything like that, then would simply go in and just without having done much outside of the trial, and that was a while ago, so I don't like remember exactly right off the top of my head, but just kind of thinking like just go in and like manually enter all of the necessary data, like where current rents are and things like that, I would imagine.
Yeah, so we can extend that free trial. So just say, hey, I still have an agreement with my property manager. Can I extend the trial until, you know, the end of that or 14 days after that? That way you have ample time. Depending on how big your portfolio is, like we have a team that does the onboarding for you. So if you want to send that over to me, Chester, also my email is dana@hemlane.com. I can just go ahead and get our onboarding team to unload it for to enter it in for you, and then you just validate it all. And we wouldn't invite the tenants until they're notified of the property management change.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
Definitely makes sense.
great.
Thank you.
Chester, what turnkey provider are you using?
You said which?
What turnkey provider are you using?
Oh, the turnkey provider is called it's Strategy Properties. But I'm actually working. It's more with the broader turnkey network. It's a little bit easier to describe from that perspective. So the name of the turnkey network is called Hipster Investments, and Allie Boone is the CEO, and she works with investors across the country to look at a few different markets. Right now, I think it's Detroit, Cleveland, Memphis, St. Louis, and Birmingham right now to connect with turnkey providers within each of those cities. And she's basically vetting those turnkey providers. So whatever properties that she is posting on her website are from those various turnkey providers. And she's always asking for feedback, very much similar to how Dana is doing right now. So I can, put you in touch with Allie, Theo. So, in case you wanted to go the turnkey route and look at properties that way.
I was just curious what your experience was because I just read a Reddit post where somebody was really complaining about a certain turnkey provider, and I don't think that what they did was that egregiously bad, but there were some other people who also had some mixed experiences. So I wondered if you were having also like a good experience or a bad experience.
Yeah, I would say it is going to depend on a few different things. First being, is this, your first property, or, is it your, just some large random numbers at your 100th property, things like that. So, the experience gap is going to play a role or a factor in that. And then as well, the fact that Allie is constantly vetting, so meaning it's basically almost like a continuous evaluation performance. Um, Not review, but similar to like an annual review at work, so to speak, where the feedback that Ali gets from all of us as investors, that is going to go. She basically is going to kind of synthesize that into a report, and she's meeting with those excuse me, turnkey um, companies on a regular basis to say, hey, here's the feedback that I'm getting from these investors who are, and I'll use my market, who are in Detroit, who are saying, hey, ABC and XYZ is not getting done, or, it's not timely, or whatever the case may be. And based on how those turnkey providers res respond to her feedback, then that's going to determine whether or not she's going to continue working with them or say, hey, you know what? Thanks for everything. We will, look for a different turnkey provider in this market. And then all of the investors who were, or I should say still are working with her, she'll just simply kind of swap one in and swap the other one out. And so there's really an incentive almost from that perspective. Almost kind of think about it like a broker to some extent, but for turnkeys. So it's like she's literally bringing us like the best of the best, depending on whichever market. I thought Dennis had a question, might have just come off of mute. But yeah, so that makes it a little bit easier because there's a little bit more of a curated experience from the perspective of just instead of, I don't want to say randomly, but I can't think of a better word of, just randomly going out into a market, connecting with one turnkey provider, and then you're like, okay, well, because of this one experience, if it wasn't, necessarily pleasant, that may end up souring you on the whole turnkey experience, where something like this is a little bit more curated. Does take a little bit more time to get some of the properties, but and the reason why I say it from that perspective is most of the time the properties sell out fast, and so the turnkey providers are working feverishly to get new inventory. Uh, so that's, you know, from that perspective, it makes things a little bit easier. So I don't know if that's something, like I said, it's one perspective, but of course, again, with things like experience and then, location, things like that. So just a few different things to think about.
Yeah, no, it's just always interesting to hear about parts of the industry that I don't know have that much knowledge about. Like I don't have that much knowledge about turnkey investments or how that whole process works. So, I mean, it could be, you can look at it as an investor, but you could also look at like, oh, hey, if I'm flipping houses, I have this opportunity to go to somebody and, offer this as like a turnkey investment for other people. So,
Yeah.
Chester, how long have you been working with this turnkey provider?
Been working with well, for this turnkey provider, it's been 4 months. Is that right? May, June, July, August. So yeah, about well, yeah, I'd say 4.5, yeah, 4 to 4.5 months. So not too long.
Okay, great. Yeah, because I'm always maybe in another accountability call that we have, I'm always curious over time working with them because I've seen some turnkey providers be great and others, even that I've worked with, were like not as good over time, you realize with the investments. And so it's good to have a good track record. So would be really curious for an update as well. It's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. If you, we have a couple of videos on the Old Guy REI channel because Allie was with us a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, actually. I've known Allie since 2019 and I've worked with her since then. We've gone through a lot of stuff together. Uh, Theo, you were asking about the process. In those videos, we talk about the process, but one thing that does happen because turnkey providers, they're a different animal. So Allie has been in a couple markets before where she was really high on a turnkey provider and they did well for like a year. And then all of a sudden they took a left turn and almost ghosted her and just things just fell apart. So there are things that she can't foresee, but um, the one that Chester bought with in Detroit seems really good, and we've been following him for a couple of years. And then I've worked with one that she uh, sent us in Illinois. He's a really good guy too. So she does her best to vet them, and she really stays on top of everybody's comments, on what kind of experience they're having and things like that, so she can report back to all of us and give us the good and the bad. But I think the biggest thing that that I've gone through with her and really I don't know, sets her apart. We have had issues, like I said, with some of the turnkey providers. And when we do, she's always been 100% behind us, figuring out why the problem arose or why this should be something you guys should fix. Why aren't you doing it? And she has a lot of weight behind her because all of us are with her, right? So like Chester said, you can go to her website, hipsterinvestments.com, look at the different markets that they have properties available in, and she can make the connection with you to or with anybody to the specific market provider. So anyway, just Allie's really trustworthy. I think that says it all for me. We started with turnkeys, like I said, because we're in California. That seemed like a really good model for us to get started with. and it has been. And through that whole process, like I was telling Dana, we landed in St. Louis, and we really like our agent there and our property manager there, and the stuff that we're buying there. So, in the beginning, we kind of got teased because we were like in 5 different states and 5 different PMs and all this stuff. But now we found a place that we like, so we're settling in a little bit.
I just realized that just the chat. I didn't realize that it kept populating. Dana, we can send you over Allie's, or I can just put it in the chat. Her email. You have to give me a second to get
Oh,
it,
I
but
can, yeah, I could just hit contact on her website. I'll just cold outreach her.
okay.
Right? Is that Hipster Investments? Is that her?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. I mean, I'll take her email too, but if it's too much work, that's great.
Yeah, no, it should take me a second or two because I was actually um, emailing her about looking at some multifamilies because that's going to be like the next sort of big goal is like,
Yeah.
not staying put. So that's going to be, got single family, got that, well, for the most part, outside of all of the, nightmare that is paperwork and all of the registrations. But next thing is going to be, looking at the differences between how single family rentals and multifamily works.
Yeah.
So I will get
Cool.
Allie's. Okay.
Thanks, Chester.
Yep, you are welcome. And as a matter of fact, it was actually pretty easy with Google. So give me a second. Where's the? Oh, here it is. Chat is here, and
I got a question if it's okay. So I have a 401k, and in the near future, I might be moving into self-direct IRA. My question is it wise to invest self-direct IRAs into turnkey models? And not sure if anybody can comment on that, if anybody hasn't done something like that.
I have never done anything like that, but are you in the other groups, Dennis, too, with Dion and Matt and everybody?
I'm in the Discord, the school. So that's where I'm basically posting and asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dennis, I can answer that too. I've done self-directed on 401ks. So it depends on, so one, there's certain restrictions, obviously, when you do a self-directed 401k on, which is a great thing to do because if you have a W-2 job, like you kind of build up this money every single month, especially if your company has a matching program. And then you're like, oh, wow, I have all this money that is just sitting here and I can't take it out right until I'm over 60 or whatever the age is. But if I self-direct it, I can take it out now, which is fantastic to invest in real estate. There's all sorts of regulations and triggers with it. So we actually have quite a few people who use Hemlane who have self-directed IRAs as well. And one of the triggers is you cannot do your own property management. And so you have to prove that you are using a full service property manager, which actually is why I think turnkey is perfect for you.
Right.
Because
Well,
you're like, there is
that's
a
my
property
question.
manager. Yeah, there is a property manager. So there's no trigger clause that would say I'm doing any of the work myself. If you're self-managing it yourself, you just have to be doing none of the work. Like you need third parties to go out to do the repairs and the repair coordination and all of that. Where you want to just look at the numbers is there's some sort of administration associated with the self-directed IRA. So it depends on how much money you have to self-direct. And then you could never commingle funds. So you can't like take some of your personal money and put it, like it all has to be in a separate bank account, a self-directed IRA bank account. And then there's fees associated with that administration. And so you'll just kind of want to do on the math on that. I mean, based on the tax savings, if you have like 100,000 that you're putting in and investing on that, it should work out to do it. But yeah, it's just slightly a different administration process because you have to be holding the funds in that self-directed IRA account. you have to have someone being administrating the account. So there's just a slightly, like, very similar to what Chester said, it's a pain to get a new rental property set up. You have to get utilities set up. You have to enter all this information. You got to get lease agreements, all this stuff. It's very similar. I feel like my experience from doing a self-directed, where it's just more of like administration and checklist items. But once you have it set up, I don't know how much money you have in that IRA account that you'd want to self-direct. Like, the more money you have in it, almost the better and more attractive it gets. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit it. I know that we have a company called Camaplan in our local area that actually does self-direct. I have a relationship with them right now.
Perfect.
And I look at, like, this is kind of like how I'm debating. So let's say, you talk about 100,000, it's probably more, but even 100,000, right? And when I look at some of the funds, how I'm doing, I am making what my fidelity says, that I'm making 15% on the fund that I'm doing, right? And which is typically not very common, because usually most 401ks, they're in the, I would say 7 to 10% on average.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna
because,
say 15% is really freaking good.
well, I have it because I have it tied to a specific company whose stock just popped in the last year. So I diversify, but I just for a percentage. But what is typically like a turnkey return if you take the same 100,000 and you put it in? Obviously, there's appreciation for turnkey. I guess really not so much of a cash flow aspect that you're looking at. Is that correct?
Sorry, what was that last part about it with the turnkey? I know you said what is the return on it, but what was the other last part on it?
So I would say most turnkeys, from my research that I've done, is it's more of appreciation than a cash flow opportunity. And I guess it depends on the market, but I would say probably a lot of it is eaten up into fees and other things. But it seems like appreciation is really where a turnkey option can make sense. I'm just curious if that's what you all think.
No, I've usually seen it also for cash flow, not just appreciation, but cash flow as well. And I actually wouldn't rely on appreciation ever. I mean, I'm very conservative and very traditional in investment. So I don't bank on appreciation. I mean, a perfect example is living here in San Francisco. People might have banked on appreciation, and there's not that much in our homes here. And then hopefully that changes. But no, I would do it on the cash flow basis. But I think if you do a pro forma, I don't know if you have one, I can send you an Excel, but if you do a pro forma, really you want to reduce risk. And so if you can say, based on the cash flow I would get, what is my return on this investment? And it would be so dependent on what property you purchase, right? Because there's bad deals, and like what Zuber says is alligator properties, and there's great deals. And so I think it's so dependent on that. And if your IRA is making 15%, you've probably done pretty well. The question is, like, will that continue and will that persist? Because the
No,
market's
probably
usually
not.
at 10 to 11%. So maybe like sell at a high and buy real estate. But I think it would really depend. What you would want to do is look at what are the properties you could purchase for that, and what would be the what would you get, and is it above what you could get if you just keep it in the market? And my my hunch is that you could get more than what is in the market, but I think it depends on where you invest. And I would objectively put the numbers on paper, because then it's never an emotional decision. It's more of like, hey, this is where I can make more money. But yeah, I wouldn't bake on appreciation. I think that might be too risky for you, and you might wake up the next day and say, oh shoot, I had this hypothesis that this market would go up, and maybe it didn't. And shoot, I should have kept it in the IRA, just making 15%.
Yeah, I mean, with COVID, unfortunately, what we're seeing today, I mean, most markets that I've been tracking, and that's North Carolina, as well as we call them Southeast markets. Tennessee, I mean, some of those locations, one year went up to by 50% as far as appreciation between 2021 and 2022. However, obviously, once again, that's not common. And it seems like that some markets are still going up 25% appreciation. But in my area, I'm in New Jersey, I see typically 7 to 9% appreciation year over year. So I think it definitely matters what market you're in. Some markets, obviously, people talk about like the Midwest markets, they're not very much appreciation. There's much more cash flow aspect of it. Um, when I'm going to be looking at a turnkey option, I probably also have to look at, like you say, cash flow. So then that tells me that I can actually do like a DSCR loan pretty much. So and get maybe even more properties that way and spread it around and have, essentially a percentage go from self-direct and maybe minimize my risks by spreading over multiple properties and multiple locations.
Yeah, I mean, I would just make sure any property you purchase has cash flow, so you're not putting money into it every month. And then on there, if you say this market is projected to appreciate more because look at the population growth, look at the job stability, look at this and that, then that can be kind of like the gravy on top. But yeah, I hear you on that.
Yeah, when you say cash flow, I mean, we're looking at after everything, you're basically cash flowing something, right? That's what you mean cash flow, because obviously nobody wants to put in money. There's that break even where what you're making is what is costing you to maintain a property, including, let's say, like I like to usually do what's called slush fund, 15% as far as capex. So that then to me, anything above that is considered cash flow. Is that how you look at a cash flow?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, I look at it on a pro forma basis of like what is the cash flow that I'm going to get every single year? What is the projected rent increases that I'll get? And then on the appreciation side, if there's two properties that are pretty similar and one is projected to appreciate more, then I would weight that over the other. But yeah, I myself, there's maybe someone else in this group who may be better to answer that, who has invested for appreciation and done well off of it. For me, areas that appreciate or that I bank on appreciation happening is more for like a primary residence or a vacation home versus an investment, because I can't predict as well what's going to happen with appreciation. And they say, like, to your point, like New Jersey keeps appreciating, but there may be a point that it doesn't, because like San Francisco we thought would always keep appreciation and then it just stalled. And so I think there is a bit of that, and the patience with it. I think it's a little bit harder to forecast out.
I just want to play devil's advocate for keeping your 401k invested in stocks. As real estate investors, we typically, we invest like 60, 70, 80% of our net worth in real estate. And on that, we're 2 or 3 times leveraged. We're having huge exposure to just real estate. And the stock market can also provide a lot of value in its liquidity. You can use that money in case there's ever a downturn in the real estate market, for big capital expenditures or unexpected expenses. And the fees are lower. There's a lot of good reasons for keeping money invested in the stock market in your 401k.
Well, there's a match, obviously, most employers. So for me, I have a match which is 100%, 6%. So it's basically like double money. The challenge is for me is that I also have income that is not W-2 income, like real estate income and stuff like that. And that's where I get hit all the time. And something like this will actually allow me to do cost segregation and things like that. So I think it really depends. If you truly just have a W-2 income, that's one factor. But when you have other income outside of that, that's when all of these additional strategies play a role. And the reality is, the numbers that I mentioned, that's not very common. I think I've just been very fortunate with the portfolio that I have. I think traditionally, what I've seen, average stock market returns in a 401k, because how you spread your funds is usually about 7% year over year.
Looks like Dana was about to hop off. Frank, I don't know if, yeah, I think you're on mute still, Frank. Uh, thank you, Dana. I think she just hopped. But uh, so yeah, definitely really good stuff. From Dana. Hopefully it wasn't um uh Mark just randomly hopping in and making all the random making the random comments that scared her off. Uh, Frank,
Frank, you're muted,
You're
Frank.
unmuted.
Mute, Frank.
I was just going to say that, Mark, when you're on with Zuber and those guys, you behave yourself, and then you come here and you just talk trash. I I sent out the cancellation notice for your membership to this group. I don't know how long it's going to take to get to Hawaii, but it should be there any minute.
You know that I'm muting you from here, right? That's why you weren't able to talk a little while ago.
Yeah.
Are you serious? You can mute people?
No.
No, no.
Oh, I was gonna say, I'm like, holy cow. Guess we need to be a little bit nicer to Mark.
No.
Oh, hey, hi, Cynthia.
That was so well timed. Please tell Cynthia that was so well timed.
I was gonna if it's okay, guys. Pam had some questions. I put the information for Brian in the chat. She was looking for some lenders to maybe work with to get out of some loans that she has on some of her properties. Are you still there, Pam?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great. Were there any other questions that you had? You mentioned something about doing your rehab. Did you have rehab questions?
I do have a rehab question. We're looking at air conditioners and the energy efficient, whatever. What's it called? I was reading the IRS instructions for it. Do you know if we'd be able to use that as a refurb? Since I was trying to see if we could take advantage of the credits somehow.
Are you doing like a window unit or a mini split or?
No, it's a huge house.
Okay, so it's a
got-
regular.
Yeah, it's I don't it would be, AC gas furnace, and it would qualify for the energy credit, but I didn't know if anybody knew anything about being able to qualify for that for tax purposes.
Are you talking about those Energy Star ratings or something like that?
Yeah.
Is this in your primary?
No, it's the refurb we did in the LLC.
Okay.
But the intent is to live in the house, sell the house we're living in, use that money to build the other two rentals or the other rental. So kind of like just moving a little bit of money around.
Is it a forced
Get
air
another
system?
rental property. Sir?
Is it a forced air system? Like you got ducts in the floor or in the walls that are pushing air through a furnace?
Yes, it'll be the whole ductwork in the ceiling will have to be done and everything.
Oh, so you're gonna do a whole system remodel with the AC and furnace then?
Yes, it has to be replaced in this house.
The easiest way to kind of get an idea on that is talk to one of your local HVAC companies. They will tell you what your options are for tax credits and
Okay.
what the process is, what it requires to do that, because a lot of them, they can build that into their estimates in terms of for installation and such. And when it comes to the tax credits, it's got to be done by a certified technician.
Right. Okay.
Do you
So
think,
I would shop around and talk to several of the HVAC companies, get some estimates of what they're looking at, because they'll have multiple recommendations on if it's a heat pump system with an AC unit, or it could be just a gas furnace system. And some have bigger tax credits than others. Like a heat pump system is the most efficient, so it's a bigger price tag, but you also get I think some of the tax credits are similar in what you get too. So, and it's a tax credits, it's going against your expenses. It's not like you're getting
Right.
money in the mail.
No, I know. I'm just trying to, I want to keep as much money in mine as I can.
that's understandable. I wonder if there's a difference if you're putting it into an investment property versus a primary.
That's because we bought it through the LLC
Mhm.
to be able to be able to get the money for the refurb and the price of the house. I did it that way. I tried to do it a couple of ways, but that was the fastest, the easiest, and it also was the most expensive.
I don't think it really matters if it's an investment property. I think what
Okay.
matters the most is that have you received the tax credit before? So if you had gotten a tax credit from your primary and then you have an investment property, I think you can only get so many tax credits in your own personal name. However, if it's off of an LLC, that might be different. From my
Okay.
understanding, when it boils down to a tax credit, the government's basically stipulating like, hey, this you're upgrading a property that's going to be a less demand on the system, so we're going to provide a tax credit because you are doing a good thing by reducing your demand on a system that's already overused.
Right. Right. Okay. I'm gonna ask the HVAC guys that have given up estimates what if they qualify for any of these credits.
Most of the big ones, they all will. It's you have to apply for it when you do an upgrade to a system, but they'll walk you through the whole process and they'll tell you what you can qualify for.
Okay. Okay. So it needs to go. I need to ask. I need to be talking to them too. Okay. That's good information. Thank you.
Do you mean if the company is big enough and they will charge more, they will qualify, and if they are small small
Not
vendor, small
necessarily.
company?
If it's a smaller business, they should be able to work with the tax credits. It's just a lot of it has to do with, are they big enough to be able to have an administrator to do all that instead of like a technician? If it's a small business and it's like, a husband and a wife and maybe two other employees, they still should be able to do it. It just might be more cumbersome for them to do it. They might not have like those direct connections with the forms and documents that are necessary to do it.
So it seems like it's something that the owner himself is complicated enough that the owner, or like Pam in this case, cannot do it herself.
Yeah.
Right? It seems like
Typically it's if you think about it, like, I don't know if you're in an area where solar is like, you're getting phone calls left and right about solar installation, stuff like that. It's a sales tactic. Hey, upgrade your system. They're making a chunk of money on putting a new system in your property. But what they do is they say, hey, you can get up to like a $2,300, $3,500 tax credit. And people are like, oh, that's great. I'm spending $15,000 on a new HVAC system. I can get $3,500 off. Well, it's not necessarily $3,500 off. You're still paying $15,000 on that install, but you're getting a $3,500 tax credit. So you're getting credited in your taxes in your LLC. So when it comes to saying you're making $50,000 in income on a property, you can offset that tax burden by saying, hey, I got a $3,500 tax credit when it comes to your CPA or your accountant that's doing you under your taxes. So, it's $3,500 less that you're having to pay on income. That's basically what you're doing.
Right.
So when it comes down to a company doing it, it's them being familiar enough to say, hey, yeah, you qualify for this tax credit. We can walk you through that process. If you're going through a smaller business, they may say, well, yeah, you qualify for that tax credit. We can try to figure out what those are for you. They may not be as knowledgeable because they don't have the staff that's just top of mind to say, hey, what size is your place? This is the type of unit we're putting in. This is what you qualify for.
Yeah. I think it comes to like you said, this is not like $3,500 off from what you're paying. It's a tax credit, and it's just 3,500 less of what what you say, like your tax basically at the end of the year.
Yes.
So it might be always the case that for anyone to look for that company that will charge less from the get-go, because you're saving money up front instead of depending on them to say, oh, you're getting 3,500 back in taxes, because as you said, you will pay the full payment up front. So shopping around for the best quote and for the same service, that would save the most money.
Yeah, I'd say when it comes in terms of doing like a mechanical upgrade like that, where you're making a big improvement to the property, I think it's Matt, the lumberjack landlord, states that you always get a minimum of 3 bids. But you know what, 3 bids and more the merrier. I would get a couple of the smaller company that you get, like, you do Google reviews. Look at the reviews, get good Google reviews, and have them come and get an estimate. Tell them what you're thinking of doing, what you need to have done, and then potentially, I would say, get 3 of the big boys to come in and do it. And generally, the bigger companies, they're going to charge you a much higher premium on the labor, but they'll also sell you on the services, because on the back end, they may provide services that will be free of charge down the line. Hey, we'll come in and we'll do a yearly just check in on your furnace. We'll come in and we'll vacuum it out. We'll clean it all out. We'll put in new filters. We'll make sure that the airflow is working properly. Hey, if you have like an AC unit that you just put in, we'll service it for 3 years. We'll come out, and if you have any issues, it'll be free of charge. Basically, it's just understanding what they're going to provide on the back end of it, because that's what, like, the big companies will sell on it. They're going to be more expensive, but they'll also provide services that'll probably be free of charge. And then even ask the smaller guys, like, hey, so and so, they're going to provide this kind of service for me, and they're going to charge me this much. What can you provide? They may throw that in to compete, but they'll be significantly cheaper.
Yeah, an example of that is I have to change something in my primary house AC unit, and it's inside because it was not heating enough in the last winter, and so I basically talked to 3 companies, and I mean, it was quite a big difference between the 3, and so one was about 4,300, the other one was 2,500, and the last one was 1,700, which was like amazing. Like, it's and so yeah, talking to the big guys and the small guys, I would tell you, Pam, to shop it around and get the best deal you can get, because some of them actually have, like, just they will charge left and right, and they have just big overhead, and some of them don't. So It's that's what I noticed, and I would say, just shop it around and see what you get.
Yeah, we have 3 bids right now. I think we're waiting on one more to come in to compare them all. So,
Yeah, I like that, Josh. Yeah, shop around and see who's the hungriest. Yeah,
yes,
that's right.
yes.
That's about right. That's about right. And Dion says some of them have work for 2 months ahead, and some of them have no work next week.
Right.
So that's who you want.
Yeah,
Another
that's
thing, don't be
exactly what I
afraid to
was
tell
about to
them.
say.
Don't be afraid to tell them the price. Like, hey, I got an estimate from this other company, and they're quoting me at this much. They'll be competitive, because it'll be surprising. Like, they'll adjust their rates if they want it bad enough.
That is true. When we get them all in, I'm gonna use those. I'm gonna look at that in all those different ways. Thanks. The other thing that I'm working on is I've got these balloon notes coming due next May, and they're 5-year balloon notes with rates. I got the rate when we first financed them. It was 5.5%, which at that time I was kind of insulted because I didn't realize how investment property was a little bit more expensive because I was brand new. But with rates right now and with this bank, I'm paying 8% on this refurb loan. I would have to raise my rent, and I probably would lose all of my tenants if I had to pay 8% on these loans. So I need to find a different route to get them financed in May, refinanced. And I don't know where to start with those. I want to do longer term, 20-year, 15-year notes on them instead of the 5-year balloons.
Well, one good thing that is in all of our favor is rates. The Federal Reserve has already started its rate lowering cycle, if you will. And so rates will generally start trending lower. So by next May, they should definitely be much lower than where they are right now. So one of the things to keep an eye out for, I'm not sure if you follow Michael Zuber from One Rental at a Time
Every day.
regularly. Okay. So like he does discuss that during the daily financial news about what's going on between the interplay, if you will, between interest rates, what I should say, mortgage rates, the federal funds rate, and then other things like the 10-year treasury note, because those all closely track. But yeah, it's because of how the economics of things have been kind of playing out over the last couple of years, mostly due to the pandemic stimulus wearing off. The Fed really has no choice but to cut rates, and they definitely kicked it off with a huge rate cut. So by next May, I think we should probably be close, maybe not the same place where we were when the pandemic, I don't know why I couldn't think of the word pandemic, when the pandemic kind of kicked off, but they should be pretty close. So you will have an opportunity, and I don't know if these are single family rentals or multifamily, but I actually was talking with the lender that Frank had put in the chat with Brian Bilstein. He had let me know, and I don't know if you were on the call a little bit earlier when I was talking to Dana about multifamily, but the rates for multifamily, since that's going to be my sort of next point of emphasis, those are even a little bit higher, not much, somewhere between, I think Brian had said roughly between 1/4% to about 0.5% slightly higher than regular single family rental rates. So that might be something also that you might want to consider. Or like you said, I think you had mentioned a portfolio loan, depending on how many properties you want to try to consolidate and have all in one loan. So there's just a few different options.
I'll have to look up the portfolio loans. I haven't even thought about that. Right now I have 4 and my goal for next year is 2 more. So, and then finish up the refurb. But I'm going to check out that. I've got time. I'm just investigating now.
You may want to look at also the DSCR loans, and I have someone I can put in the chat, and she's she shops around DSCR loans as well. So maybe that's something that helps you.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. And Chester, you have some great news about the rate cut. Is that something that Zuber is talking about? So it's going to be close to the pandemic level at some point next year?
I don't know if it's going to be ultra aggressive to get that fast, but yeah, that's like the Federal Reserve's like their dual mandates. Basically, their 2 main missions: price stability and maximum employment. So the Fed basically, as of I think it was the 18th and 19th or 17th and 18th. So basically last week, they basically quote unquote declared victory on inflation. And so they're like, all right, well, we see the job market deteriorating basically in real time. And in order to get ahead of it before it, hits that sort of exponential spike in the unemployment, they're like, okay, to the best extent possible, they're going to try to quote unquote front run it by lowering interest rates generously so that we collectively, well, I should say, of course, because it's, it starts with businesses having cheaper lending, and then of course would hopefully slow down the layoffs, and I would hope encourages more hiring. But yeah, that's usually kind of step one is, when the job market is deteriorating this fast, the Fed has to act and act quickly, because otherwise it can get out of hand. So that's what I say. Yeah, it's definitely encouraging for us now, especially for those of us who've locked in within the last, let's say, 6 to 9 months. Definitely good opportunities for refining, and of course, picking up new properties.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yay! I'm ready for some refis next year. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely should be very robust opportunities, I would think. In addition, of course, to all of the people who haven't already gotten a chance to refi out of some of those, like, upper 7 from the not commercial, like residential, like just regular single family houses. Like, yeah. So yeah, but no, definitely will be, I think, a good opportunity for all of us. So yeah, whatever options are available. And again, if there's any lenders or anybody like that we can be put in touch with. Actually, speaking of which, even though I, of course, have not worked with them yet, has anybody worked with Convoy Home Loans?
Set up a few meetings with Jonathan, and he's awesome to work with. It was just that deal fell through. So, but yeah, it's very straightforward, and he's a no bullshitter, so it's really nice to have.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, because Brandon just did a DSCR refi on a fourplex and he got in the 5s. So, Pam, I was going to say, might want to start the process. You said you have some time, but you might want to do some of the heavy lifting now, because there might be some things you need to work on to get everything lined up.
Yeah, definitely some, if you want to call it an interest call. I mean, obviously, that's kind of going to be your ultimate goal, but yeah, definitely to figure out, how to, as quickly / efficiently as possible, already have those ducks in a row, so that, by, March, April timeframe, you're ready to, start rocking and rolling.
Okay, that's a good idea. So I do have time right now. So I'm gonna start making these calls on these couple of people. Maybe I can. I don't want to sound stupid, but what is a DSCR loan?
Oh, DSCR is just an acronym that stands for debt service coverage ratio. And
Okay.
basically all it is the income from the rental properties is able to cover, I believe it's just the principal and interest. Because it would, I think, also assume like you'd be able to take care of taxes and insurance on your own, but it's actually, I'm thinking about the debt coverage ratio itself. So, but yeah, just DSCR loans. Yeah, that's really the main thing that the lenders are going to be focusing on is the total rental income across all of the properties compared to what the total note is, or notes plural. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I'll start working on that now.
Yeah, and that's like Chester said, it's based on the property. They don't really, it's a lot less paperwork from what I understand.
Yeah.
Your income doesn't really play a part. Your credit score will, and the fact that the rents cover, like Chester said, the principal and interest.
Okay.
So for a debt service coverage ratio loan, the typical ratio is 1.25 to 1.35, which means that the rents are covering 25 to 35% more than the payment.
Yeah, and then just like a quick, easy example of that is like if, again, fully loaded here, but the principal and interest is $1,000. The rents have to be either $1,250 or $1,350, depending on if it's the 25% or the 35%.
And he got a 5% on a DSCR loan for a fourplex for refinancing it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was a straight 5, but it was in the 5s. Yeah.
That seems really low.
Yeah.
I think
It's really low for a regular refi.
It's because oh, that's right, yeah, but I think the SCR loans now are kind of low because they depend, I believe they depend on the 5-year curve, and the conventional loan depend on the 10-year, and now the 5-year is lower than the 10-year, but someone may know better than me about it, but I think that's what's going on. That's why they are going low than normal.
I think
So
you got to get on the phone.
Yeah.
I
DSCR
believe
loans
this
are
is with the buy down rate of 3 points. So you pay 3 points for the rate of 5%.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
But if it makes sense, it makes sense.
Yep. No, it's worth it.
Yeah, I would also recommend, I forgot who it was, Sam, that said Matt the mortgage guy. They also do DSCR loans too. So I'm talking to Audi for the Ohio market. So I'm trying to refinance mine, get my 8-1 destroyed.
That's definitely good stuff.
Yeah.
I think Matt's going to be on school Friday. I think I'll try and pick his brain a bit about that.
Definitely.
What are you thinking you could get down to, Harrison?
I would be happy at a 6. Something with a 6 on it. It's if I get down to a 6.5, 6.7, I'll take that all day. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like Lindsay said, I think that 5% or 5-ish% is when you buy down 3% the rate, or 3 points. Is that their lowest? That's the bottom when you spend as much money to buy their rate. And I think that there's there's a term for that. They call it par rate, or some other term for it. So it costs money to get that low. Um,
You talking about a rate buy down, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the 5.5 or DSCR might come with the buy down for the rate. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. That yeah, depending on if the lower you can get it, the better. And so um, oh, Harrison, Lindsay was asking, I think a second ago, which market in Ohio are you
Oh
in?
yeah, I'm in Akron right now, but I'm open to the whole Northeast and going south.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
and I trust me, I have not forgotten. I know we definitely will have the opportunity to connect. I am
Dude, you're
right now
busy.
fighting all of these paperwork demons.
Yeah.
Man, oh my gosh, and I it's like if someone would have given me some sort of heads up about how much paperwork I would be dealing with right now, I
Oh,
lie
yeah.
to you all not. I probably might not be on this call. I might have been like, nope, I'm out. But now I'm like halfway through it, so I've gotta keep going. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll definitely connect though, because what was it? Columbus and Dayton. Those are some markets that Basilio and Lars have been telling me about, and I've kept my eye on them. Obviously, not as closely right now, but yeah, definitely is something where once the dust settles on property number one, then I'm gonna start to do my due diligence and figure out like, okay, first, what paperwork do I need? Then start looking at some properties. But yeah, there's going to be a bunch of stuff like there's like a new Intel plant, I believe, that's coming online right outside of Columbus. And Columbus and Dayton are about 45 minutes or so drive from one another. And that Wright-Patterson Air Force Base is right outside of there. So they've got, of course, tons of defense contractors that are out that way. So
exactly.
Good little
So,
market.
Yeah, it's interesting. Also, trying to talk to Hunter Gore. I don't know if you've seen him around on school, but he's also invested in, was it Greenville, South Carolina, and then in that around that area in Ohio as well. So
okay. So I have to confess, I'm probably one of the few people who has yet to sign up for school. It will be forthcoming because again, had I known about school before, had I known about school before the before starting to close, then I probably would be in there now. But want to make sure everything is already settled, and then once the property is stabilized, so I would say either October or November. October is going to be kind of aggressive, but yeah, definitely be in there in the next couple of months.
Yeah, it's a party. Frank and Mark are really leading it up. So, and now, Jack and Mikey as well. So,
yeah,
there's a bunch of bullies in there.
Wait, all right. So, Mark, you have to define who the bully is. Are you referring to you being the bully?
Not me,
about
man.
me.
No.
Jack, Frank, I don't know. Those guys are mean in there.
We're trying to keep out the riffraff. It's not working.
Oh god.
It's a good place, Chester. It's a lot of fun in there. There's a lot of different conversations going on, and you'll find all kinds of cool stuff going on. Everybody's doing something different.
Nice. Yeah, the one thing that I did like that I don't want to say like mirrors, but is reminiscent, I would say, or I'd say like in its own way, because of course Zuber brings on like the millionaires every, so often, like on whatever schedule. The one thing it was making me think of is how it's similar to what Matt is doing in the boot camps. Like, so he's got like the course, but then he's got like a boot camp where it's just like even more concentrated info than what's in the courses, but he'll bring on experts in each of the different areas, like probate attorneys, trust attorneys, oh gosh, what do you call it? Why am I drawing a blank? I haven't taken the boot camp yet, so I'm just trying to go off memory. But Matt is like always bringing in experts, and everybody gets to kind of like basically pick their brains along with Matt. And he said, like, you guys have seen and heard him, like, he'll be like, X, Y, and Z boot camp went for 3 or 4 hours and stuff like that. So, that's where a lot of that's coming from, is like, somewhere between 10 to 15 people in each boot camp. And they just like, hey, this week we're going to cover, how to set up a trust. And, here's my trust attorney. And then, you just get, I don't know if it's rapid fire, but I would imagine just like, whoever has whatever questions. So that's one of the things that it made me think, like, it sounds like school is going to have that level of value. Especially it's already there, being able to interact with all of the different millionaires. So that's why I said, like, I think it definitely is a very a good concept. And once I've got everything finally taken care of, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask Dana more about, like, is there a possibility that people can, at least for the portions of the paperwork that where you're not ready to pull your hair out, like for me, example, if you're already bald, and pull out your scalp, to not have to deal with the paperwork. But I guess it's part of the process. So I'll call these growing pains.
Oh, Frank,
that brings me to the Oraat event next year, and I believe it's February 15th to 16th, and then after that there's the President Day, and but before that there's also Valentine's Day. So so that's kind of a little annoying to leave, and go to Vegas if someone want to go, and especially that if you have a significant other, like a spouse. So what you guys thought about that? Is that I mean, it's kind of like right there, especially on Thursday, if when I meet before or after. Kind of difficult to manage with that a nice day ahead of that meeting. So.
Oh, trust me, I'm getting spoiled on Valentine's Day one way or another.
Cynthia has spoken.
Yeah, you get to see me, Cynthia.
You got to bring your wife, Sam.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, well. So with the 3 kids now, I have a newborn. It's that's it is my. I have there's some limitation. I'd love to though. I'd love to.
Well, Cynthia said, "Bring them. She'll do daycare."
Oh, free daycare. Okay.
Hey, Cynthia.
Oh, Frank.
Hi, Cynthia.
Bye. So when you see him next time, if he doesn't come on camera or his face looks a little different, you know why. Okay, just saying. Might be a little darker in some places,
Remember when I was talking about bullies in school?
Oh, don't even talk to me about bullies.
Frank's going to be doing the accountability meeting at night.
Yep. Hey,
It'll be
Mark,
after night van confessions.
I had some topics for him, but he won't do them. Hey, Mark, did you buy your ticket already? Did you buy your ticket already? Or your chicken? Both
What?
Did you buy your ticket already? Or are you
I
chicken?
have not bought my ticket yet.
Mark, come on. Mark Zuber said today that the VIP is already halfway sold out. Like, come on, dude. You already know what's gonna happen. You know what's
Yeah.
gonna happen.
Seriously.
That was the
Well, I'm
main reason
hoping-
why I was concerned. Like, I didn't want, like, it was such a short or compressed time frame to get tickets and get all the, hotel, airfare, stuff like that. So that's why I was like, 6 months should be a decent amount of time. And you have, halfway decent airfare rates and stuff like that. So come on, man. Gotta do it, man.
I will. Yeah.
I'm not trying to bully you here, but I'm just saying, wanna, we'll make sure
This is a real estate Zoom call. Is there any real estate to talk about?
Well, we were, the one rental at a time meet up, we get to connect with all of our illustrious colleagues and talk about some of the best practices.
Okay, guys,
Okay.
gotta go correct papers. I'll talk to you guys later.
Bye, Cynthia.
All right, see you later, Cynthia.
See you, Cynthia.
Yeah, Sam, I feel your pain though, because I am going to have a newborn 2 weeks before the event.
Oh, wow.
Oh, congratulations.
Oh, thank you. But it's like,
Congratulations.
thank you so much. But yeah, and then we've never been together almost 14 years, never missed a Valentine's Day. And she's like, you're not gonna miss this one. So it's like, boom. So yeah.
Copy that. Understood.
No
Yeah, I was
problem.
thinking, like, congratulations on that. I was thinking, it might be, like a week before, or a week after, or, right? But it's right there at that weekend, or that date, and it might be, it might be a reason for it. But I was just thinking, like you said, like it's a little bit close to Valentine. It's actually very close. If you want to go 2 days before the event, it's actually, that means you miss it, you miss it, or you go. So it's and yeah, that's my situation. I was thinking about it today. I was trying to decide, but then I looked at the dates and like, man, I mean, it's kind of that's another year of almost missing it.
So Sam, you and Harrison might be, and this is something well, tomorrow I'm gonna be in the office all day, so I'm gonna have to actually get ready to hop off soon. But there might be, and I can look into maybe like get in touch with him next Monday to try to see if Zuber can do the virtual option the same way as he did last year, or this year, I should say, so that again, we know schedules change, things like that, and again, congratulations, Harrison. So it's life is gonna happen, but there's the possibility of being able to do that, and then we'll have you guys there virtually.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope do not shift this meeting to that topic now. But yeah, appreciate it, and so hopefully we won't take longer in this meeting. But yeah, appreciate that, Chester. Yep.
Yeah. No. I was gonna just say, Lindsay, you made me think of something. You're talking about Valentine's Day and how it's important to all of us guys, and girls too. But I was doing a video the other day and talking about how there's a few people out in our group that have a spouse that's not on board with their partner's investing. They don't really. Not that they don't care about it, but it's not important to them. Some people have even said that their spouse doesn't really even think about retiring early or any of that stuff. And I was just thinking that if I were in that situation, I would definitely find value in you guys in this group because Cynthia and I have been going through quite a bit in our portfolio, and if I didn't have her to chat with and help me stay positive through it, it'd be pretty lonely. And hopefully the people that are in that situation, at least for now, can lean on us, and maybe their spouses will come around eventually. See, like in our case, I'm doing it. The first reason I started doing it was because I didn't have any retirement, but then that changes a little bit over time, and it turned into wanting to build enough of our portfolio so that at least Cynthia could retire, and she's going to retire after this school year. But then, then my retirement will come after that. So I think just the comment you made about Valentine's Day, I think it really resonates with throughout the group. It's just how caring all these people are, and why I think we're so good together. We're all on the same journey. We might have a little bit different goals, but there's a lot of support. We talk about it quite often where we haven't met anybody in the group that we wouldn't really want as a friend, except for Mark. But that's a different story. Just
Poor
kidding.
Mark.
We really love him, and we were so glad to be able to meet him and all you guys whoever went last year. It was really a good time.
So random thought that just came to me because of the theme of it may not necessarily be overarching, but definitely a major or central theme of couples, regardless of whether it's, just various phases from, husband and wife to, anything outside of that. But that might be the reason why the event this year might be over that Valentine's Day long weekend or Valentine's Day, President's Day weekend because of that.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
It's just a possibility. I mean, I think now my first thought or reaction was, trying to be consistent with doing the event, right after the Super Bowl every year. But, this might have been intentional for that purpose. So
I wonder. Ask Michael what, Lindsay?
That if he did it intentionally.
Oh,
Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Well, if he's smart, he'll say yes.
Well, I mean, it's alley-oop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like, well, you guys heard what he was talking about today. He's kind of setting the schedule and things. It sounds like it's going to be really good. I like the idea of the millionaires panel. That sounds like it could be very interesting, where there's a few millionaires up there at one time where we'll be able to ask them questions and things.
I did not hear about that part, but that definitely sounds cool.
Yeah, I think so, because he was on with Casey, and she volunteered to be part of that group. And then they were going to do the recording booth again and give various people access, and those people will ask. I guess they're getting an hour. It sounded like an hour.
Half an hour segments, and then they can take both.
Yeah, but I think you're right about the half hour, but I think each person has an hour so they can interview two people. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So that should be fun too. I think this year too, I mean, we'll probably get around, and since we started this channel, probably just go mess around and try to meet as many people as we can and interview them, and maybe even do some live stuff just to kind of emphasize what goes on there. Be pretty fun.
Frank, when are you going to go up and start talking?
I'll be in the back in the background somewhere, I'm sure.
I got a quick funny for this Vegas trip for y'all. So I was telling my Cynthia when it's happening. I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss Valentine's Day," and she's like, "I don't like flowers. I don't like chocolate. We can go out any old time. I don't really care about Valentine's Day." She's like, "Just buy me a chainsaw." I was like,
Chainsaw?
I was like, "Why do you need a chainsaw? You have 10 of them." She's like, "Well, you get to go to Vegas. I want a chainsaw."
At least
I
she
like
told
that.
you what she wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make
that's
them
a
all and
big help.
everything.
Yeah, either a Poolin or a Black and Decker.
She wants a steel,
Steel.
but
I
it's
was
it's
gonna
not a
say.
very expensive
nice.
one.
Yeah, sounds like our kind of people.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
thought
those are pretty reliable.
she was going to use it to build you a pine box or something.
It could be. She'll probably use that tulip poplar in her backyard.
See.
That's definitely interesting, though. An interesting Valentine's Day gift.
Mm.
She likes trucks, chainsaws, and a lot of other weird stuff.
It is nice though. I mean, instead of you guessing and getting her all the kinds of things that she doesn't like, that makes sense.
Pretty sure there probably won't need to be a poll of who, whether or not Michelle or Lindsay would want a chainsaw. But, maybe we could ask. Maybe they might.
Well, Michelle's going to start her tub refinishing business.
I already have a chainsaw, Chester.
Oh, well, there you go. See?
I want a riding lawnmower in case anyone is wondering what I would like for a gift. My birthday's coming up.
Oh,
Just kidding.
nice.
That's
Happy
like
birthday.
a 25-year anniversary gift, Michelle.
Oh, okay. Oh man, that's a long time from now, even if I added up all my husbands.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
They
Yeah,
fell
you guess.
victim to the chainsaws.
Yeah. Oh, no. They're still alive, I think. Yeah, my next project will be a tub refinishing company. So I'll bring my business cards to the Super event
There you go.
so I can fly around the country refinishing tubs.
You'll be
Anyway.
flying. You'll be flying after you inhale all those fumes.
All those fumes, yeah. It wasn't that bad. With the paint wasn't that bad. The primer was really, really like almost like you didn't even have to breathe, and it was already like you could already smell it.
Wow.
And I had a painter's mask with a filter and all that. So, but that was quick. That was like, just rubbing it with a paper towel after the tack rag, and it was really quick, and I just got out really, and left it for like 10-15 minutes, and then I painted. So yeah, it turned out pretty good. I'm gonna do my other rental. There's a couple more tubs that I know need it, and now I'm gonna be like calling each tenant and saying, hey, when you're going away for 4 days, let me know because I need to do this. It's a $200 investment in almost 2 days. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna find an attachment brush for my drill or for some sort of mechanical thing so that I can spread the cleaner with the mechanical brush or like a mechanical whatever sponge,
Mhm.
and then wash it 2 or 3 times, and then I'm gonna use the sander, the electrical sander, instead of trying to sand it by hand. And so I think that's gonna cut a lot into the cleaning time, because that took me a long time. That took me like 5 hours on Sunday. And then you have to let it dry. So I would do cleaning on one day instead of going in with the hair dryer, because that's what they said on the videos, to dry really well. I would just let it be, and then the next day come back with the tack rug, the primer, walk away for 10, 15 minutes, and come back and paint. And then it sits for 3 days at the very least. It says 48 hours, but I think I want it to sit for longer than that. But yeah, I was really, really impressed with having completed that project.
I have one in
Hey,
St.
Michelle.
Louis that's need doing.
Okay, let me know when I'm going.
It's vacant.
Oh
So now,
yeah,
Michelle, you're gonna fly to California?
yeah. I'm gonna have no to St. Louis.
You'll be
St.
the
Louis.
contractor moving around.
Yeah, yeah. My husband first said it because the guy wanted to charge me $800 per tub, and on the I think it was on Dion's live, but I asked Matt what he pays for his, and he said like $900 to $1,300. But I had a quote for 800, and so the guy basically said, because I did a pause. It's funny because we did the call today with Matt, and he said awkward pause. I did an awkward pause to after he said 800 per tub, and he said, "Well, for you, I'll do it for 400 each, but you buy the material." So, um, the only I was gonna pay it. I mean, with the eyes closed, I was gonna pay it, but I want to do an open house on Saturday, and the product won't arrive until Monday. And he had availability today, but not for another couple weeks. So I'm like, man, if I don't get it done, then the open house is gonna look bad. So that's why I ended up just doing it myself. So
Very good.
anyway, yeah. I'm proud of
It
having
happens
it done.
sometimes that you can do it yourself before you wait for someone else. It's kind of hard to get someone on time. So yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
I think you should always hire a contractor, Sam. Just saying.
Yes, yes. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I will.
yeah. So Michelle will be.
She's a subcontractor.
I'm a sub now.
There you go.
Hey, Michelle, I had a quick question about what you were using. So instead of using a hair dryer, could you set up like a space heater and like a box fan blowing on it? Like I was thinking, like if you left it in there for like maybe a day and put it up on like 86 degrees or something, would
Yeah,
that work the same as that?
I think it would. They say basically I just watch videos. I not even the product video, but it was like different people on YouTube, because we love YouTube, right? And saying how they did it. And they were just going really close with the hair dryer. Um, it does have a minimum temperature, so I would think that if it was colder here right now, it's mid 60s during the day. If it's less than 60, I wouldn't have done it. If it was more, I think it was like if it's more than like 90, they don't recommend. So it has to be like a balance on to dry and cure. But yeah, I think the heat wouldn't hurt for sure if it was a colder climate. I think the heat wouldn't hurt. They just do the hair dryer like really close to dry any water. They don't want any
Oh,
water
okay.
to be on the surface at all when you're applying that paint. So I just let it sit over, from Sunday to yesterday, so that I knew that there was no water on there.
A lot of those chemicals are pretty flammable. I would be careful with flames or that kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think that that primer, Frank, I think you said that the guys they do this for a living use a lot of acetone. I think that's what that was. That primer, I think it was acetone, if I remember
Yeah, that
the
really
smell of
cleans
it.
everything really, really well. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is super flammable.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you use that exhaust fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did put box fans in the windows, like they were in the rooms where the air cross paths, and I was pulling air out of one from the outside and then getting air out on the other one. That way, I was hoping that that would help with the smell. But the bathroom doesn't have a window, and I didn't use the spray cans because Frank was saying if I was going to use the spray cans, I wouldn't want to do the fan because it creates a cloud. Um, so I was rolling the paint, so I didn't. But the fan turned on. I left it on so that hopefully the smell was less because of that. But yeah, and I got on the second coat. I didn't even put a mask on. The paint wasn't bad. It was the acetone, and once it was covered with the first coat, I think it smelled less. So on the second coat, I was just like, no mask. Probably if I was doing it for a living, I would find a mask that I would be able to use always. But yeah, anyway, that's my adventure for this week. My unit is ready for an open house. It's beautiful.
That's great. You'll have to let us know how the open house goes. I we we needed to replace a water heater in one of the houses in St. Louis that we just bought, and I had gotten a hold of our agent's plumber, and so it was obviously this long distance thing, right, where I had to send him the cash to pay for the permit ahead of time. It was $350 for a permit, and then he just had me pay for the water heater at Home Depot, and he went to pick it up, and he was going to go install it. And so this morning, my time, it was 7 o'clock my time, so it was 9 o'clock there, and I sent him a message to let him know the lockbox code so he can get into the property. And he sent me back pictures. He was already done installing the water heater. It looked so nice. And it was only 9 o'clock there. I don't know what time he started, but I was super impressed. So I made sure I paid him right away and sent him a $50 tip and things like that, just to hopefully he'll want to keep working with us. I was amazed at his work. That was a good experience considering all the stuff that we've gotten into lately.
Makes you feel much better when it's long distance like that.
Yeah, really felt good. And we have already kind of we have a relationship with the roofer that she recommended. He did the roof on our first rental there. And I thought I was getting bad news. He sent me a text. I sent him half the money yesterday so he could buy the materials. And then this morning he texted me that all the distributors were really behind on their deliveries. It was going to take a couple of weeks to get the roofing delivered, and he doesn't start the project until he has the delivery scheduled. So they'll strip the roof and prep the roof, and by the time the delivery comes, they're ready for it. But so he said it was going to take a couple of weeks before they could deliver. So he talked his guys into hand stacking the roof with the material. So they'll have the roof done by the middle of this coming week. So I think having a decent relationship with him really helped. You know, that we worked with him before, we paid him on time, gave him a tip, like Dion always says, if you're happy with him, to be sure to tip him. So that was some good news. Even though, and the other thing is the roof is only $4,200. I keep hearing people in other states that are paying quite a bit more. and it was probably 1,000 to 1,100 square feet. It's a small 3-1, but we always use the architectural shingles versus the regular flat 3-tab. So even with the higher quality materials, it was a really decent price.
Yeah,
I think that's smart to use a higher quality shingle in your area there too, with the chance of hailstorms and all that kind of stuff that goes on back there.
Yeah, that is a thing back there, because on this same property that I'm talking about, it did have hail damage on the existing roof. So he had given us a quote to just replace the damaged shingles. That would have been $1,000. So I
May as well
figured,
just redo it.
yeah, might as well, especially for that
Yeah.
price. And well, we take a chance, obviously, of hail coming back again, but um, that isn't always the case. I know Texas is really bad about huge
Right.
hail, and those roofs take a beating. So we'll see how long it lasts without hail damage.
Yeah, I have family down in the southwest side of Missouri, and they've had, I don't know, they've been back there for 30 years, and I know they had pretty bad hailstorm one time in the time that I've known they've been back there. So,
Mm-hmm.
but,
Yeah,
so not as bad like you're saying, like Texas.
yeah, I know my mom had a property in Texas, and she was really lucky with that one. It was a new build in 2005, and they had a couple of big hailstorms, and that property, I guess it either missed it or something, because she didn't have damage, but you were getting reports all over the area of homeowners and insurance companies just kind of swooping in and trying to take care of those issues.
How much did you say you paid for it? 4,300 for the new roof, Frank?
Yeah, the new roof was 42.
That's a great price. Yep.
Yeah, because
Material and labor and material.
Yep, everything.
That's great. And
Yeah.
and that's great. Yeah. And a decent size on a decent size house, over 1,000 square feet. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had conversations with the turnkey provider that we bought with in Gary, Indiana, and we were, I always go after a new roof if I can do it on a purchase. And he was saying that sometimes like if the roof has, 5 or 7 years of life left, they won't do it, because there it's $8,000. And I was telling him what we were doing in St. Louis, and he couldn't believe it. It's twice as much in Indiana.
Oh yeah, yeah. And yeah, in Texas, I think the Dallas area has big hail sometimes. So try to go to both cars and houses too. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Here comes Mr. Hang 10. He's back.
Uh-oh. You need to go put some Crocs on that statue and then take a picture of it.
Is that what he's known for? Is wearing his Crocs?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think he even has a pair that's bedazzled.
Nice. It's hard to paddle out when you're wearing Crocs like that.
keeps the
Mark,
sharks away.
Okay.
Mark and Crocs are synonymous.
Funny.
Didn't he had Sierra doing some special Crocs project, didn't he?
I know we've been asking her. I'm also in. That's like, hey, I want some gibbets. So
Oh, there you
different.
go.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He must be busy.
Yeah.
Well, what else you guys
Croc has
got?
his tongue.
What's that, Jeff?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Harrison.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was just gonna say, yeah, definitely as we're getting to the colder months, I've been property management's definitely been hitting me a little bit more because I mean, just little fixes here and there. Um, they're asking me if I want to do a full dry lock before fixing up the drainage, which I've been having problems with before. Is that worth doing, or is that putting the cart before the horse, so
You
to
mean
speak?
dry locking the walls in the basement?
Yeah, doing a full scrape and dry lock, and then just they were saying just do that, and then kick the can down as much as you can, maybe till late spring, early summer.
I don't know if I'm missing something there, but there's a guy on YouTube
Mhm.
that does that, and he always advertises his business, But my understanding, or the way I theorize it, is the water's already getting through the wall, right?
Right.
So you can clean it and you can dry lock it, but
Mhm.
I know for a fact that water's just going to bubble up that dry lock. It's not going to keep the water out.
Right.
So I probably myself wouldn't waste the money dry locking it, maybe clean it,
Right.
um, and then through the winter watch it and see how much water comes through. But I think I would do the French drain before I would try to dry lock it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Thank you.
Yeah, because if you think about it, I'm sure you've seen homes on the interiors where they got a fresh coat of paint, but there's a little bit of water seeping through the wall, and then you just get these big
Mhm.
blisters.
Right.
The paint just blisters, and I'm pretty sure, might Google it, but dry lock is a water-based product, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah, that's the weird part. I think so.
Yeah, so I don't trust it myself, and I comment I don't comment too much on other people's stuff, but I did comment on that one because I don't believe it.
Okay.
And he didn't really
Mm.
keep going with me on that.
Where's the water coming from? Do you have gutters up?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. So we have gutters. We actually put extensions in, but the neighbor put in a garage that
Yeah.
basically feeds into it, and then also our area is just a little flat enough where it goes right into the basement. So yeah, and unfortunately we don't have a connection to the city water drains directly, so we're just yeah, the idea is to French drain it into the backyard and see how it goes there.
On
Yeah,
this
so I was gonna
side,
say is get some extensions on those gutters.
Yeah.
That's what I do on one of mine when we get a bunch of snow and I know there's gonna be a bunch of melt off. It's like make sure they got that extension on there so it just really gets all that carries everything away and get it away from the house.
Right. Yeah.
Mine doesn't go in the basement, but they have kind of a screen room thing, and when it doesn't, it's almost level with the yard, and so when the yard gets a bunch of runoff, it'll start to back up into that screen room, and so I know it's like no,
Mm.
you got to get. I think I have like about an 8 or a 10, like a 10-foot piece of corrugated, 4-inch like
Yeah.
corrugated sewer pipe type stuff that I put on the end of that thing just to carry it way out across the yard, and that does the trick.
That's great. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
But
Harrison, on the side of the house that you're talking about, does that whole side slope towards the house, or is there an
Yeah,
area?
it's up towards the house,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah, I was just going to ask because if there was an area that sloped away from the house, maybe 3 or 4 feet, then that might be a good spot
Yes.
for the French drain, right? But
Yeah.
mhm.
No,
Yeah,
that's a great suggestion though.
some kind of drainage in there to carry it away would be
mhm.
yeah, good. Well, I'm gonna call it a night, guys.
Okay. Yeah, if nobody else has any questions or anything they want to chat about, I guess we will call it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and head out as well because I gotta, be up the crack of dawn.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks, Michelle. Michelle Tubb Meyer. We know who to call.
Michelle Chainsaw Meyer.
No.
All right, you
Well, if you
guys
see me coming with the chainsaw, run.
on
See
your
you
riding
guys.
lawnmower.
And
All right,
riding
you
on
guys.
Harrison, when's your video coming out?
It's coming in hopefully the next few days. Working on the
All right.
edits. So
Cool.
yeah.
Harrison,
First video.
plug yourself. What's your channel name? Plug yourself.
Yeah, Trade Better 99. YouTube. So
Cool. We'll be looking
yeah,
for it.
looking for it. Yeah.
Oh.
So thanks so much.
Okay, you guys have a great night.
Have a good night.
And thank you.
Correct. You too. Guys, have a good night.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.